Callie Finn. Happy WNBA Monday to you. I'm so glad you're joining me today because we haven't been here for a while and I haven't seen you since opening day of the WNBA season.
Yeah, at least we got to see each other in person. Aces and Liberty at Barclays. That was an experience.
We did. And since that game, those two teams have somewhat gone in two different directions. So we will get into it. But I have to start. It's Monday, so I release my power rankings every Monday. And every Monday, there's a different fan base upset with me. So I'm not sure who it will be this week. But these are my weekly power rankings that you're getting a sneak preview of because I haven't even published them yet. And Callie, first of all, I want to just know what you think. This is actually the first time my rankings directly match the standings. That's never happened before, but this is where I landed for this week. So do you have any initial thoughts when you see these rankings? Anything you disagree with?
Well, okay, first, I want to start with a question about your philosophy with power rankings. I feel like this is so important. How do you kind of make your decisions? I think one thing that stands out to me, I think the placement of the Atlanta Dream is different from the actual league standings.
Is it?
So, little small things like I think they're third in league standings right now.
They might, but they have the same record as the
Yeah,
Phoenix Mercury, I believe.
yeah. But
So,
like to just like talk me through your process. I
yeah,
would love to hear that.
sure. So for me, I look I look obviously at the week that was just played, but it's not solely that, right? I still collectively considered what happened over the course of the season. So let's say, like for example, I have this week I have the Washington Mystics ahead of the
Mhm.
Golden State Valkyries. Now, I can imagine some Valkyrie fans may say to me, well, the Valkyries beat the Mystics, so why are they ahead of them? But, bro, your
Yeah.
team just lost 3 games in a row, right? And that game was super close. I can't, from that game, say that the Valkyries are a vastly superior team. It was a 2 point win that came down to the very end that either team could have won. And in this last week, the Mystics at least won 1 game. So I take into account stuff like that. I do look at some advanced metrics. The sample is very small right now, so things are shifting a lot. But I'll usually look at offensive rating, defensive rating, net rating, some other stuff. And then I
Mhm.
also will factor in just the quality of your wins and your losses, right? Like the Aces last week, that was a really bad loss to the Seattle Storm. It was bad and it was
It was.
embarrassing, right?
Yeah.
But like if you lose, when the Mystics come in and they lose to the Aces or the Valkyries lose to the Liberty, but it was a super close game, and then I'm like, okay, well, this team had no business even being in the same, like keeping it close with,
Yeah.
New York. So I do consider your losses who they're to, and I do consider your wins. So Lynx
Yeah.
fans have been very upset, like, oh, like they probably can't this week, but before this week when the Lynx had played one more game than the Liberty, they were upset that I still kept ranking the Liberty first. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, both teams are undefeated. Like the Liberty can't
Right.
help that the Lynx have just played one more game than them, but also the Liberty wins have just been against better teams.
Right. I was
And
gonna say
and
the strength of those ones have been
right.
stronger, I would say. So
Correct. Yes. And then there were other
yeah.
things too. Like they have the best net rating in the league right now. They have the top offense and defense. So I don't really see a case to make the Lynx over the Liberty, but they're really neck and neck. Like if this could be a tie, they would be tied, but we can't. We have to rank each team. And so that's where I land.
Yeah. I mean, I can't say that there's anything in your power rankings that I like strongly disagree with. I would actually be really interested to see how people respond to this because it's like, what can you be upset about? I think the only thing is maybe I think you have a Sky over the Valkyries, and I don't know if I align with that. Like, I might put the Valkyries over the Sky, just kind of based on the some of the Sky's struggles. And I will say though too, when we're talking about power rankings and things like that, it's like, well, like how did this team fare compared to your expectations and things like that? The Sky having like a brand new coach and the adjustments that they'll make. I mean, obviously the Valkyries are a brand new franchise as well, but like maybe it's up for discussion. But I might put the Valkyries ahead of the Sky. just based
Completely
off the
fair.
strength of their wins. But other than that, I mean, to me, this looks like you said, it's really close to the standings. It's really close to the actual league standings. There's nothing controversial here.
Yeah, and I mean, I went back and forth about, the Sky and the Valkyries, and what I just came down to is like the Valkyries lost 3 in a row this week, and
Mhm.
the Sky won 2 in a row this week. And since the first game of the season, when I look at the Sky, they've progressed in every game. Like even though they haven't won every game, there's been substantial change. And so I felt that warranted them getting, 1 spot over the Valkyries. I mean, to me, that's not like that substantial of a difference. The other thing too that I didn't know is like my rankings are in tiers. So
Mm.
if you're in the same tier, you're somewhat comparable to me. So the Valkyries and the Chicago Sky are like in the same tier. They're like teams that are building, rebuilding, if you will, for all the other teams
Okay.
except the Valkyries because they're brand new. So they're sort of building, and they're like the same caliber of team to me.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense.
So, okay, well, we agree there. So let's see. So, I mean, look, I don't even know if there's like a lot to say about the Liberty. There's no championship hangover when it comes to them. That's what I will say.
Hmm.
They looked great on opening night. The Aces made it interesting for a little bit in the third quarter, and then it felt like the Liberty just said, okay, we're going to kick it into another gear. And sorry, Aces, you're not on our level anymore. I mean, that's how it felt when I watched the game. And they have been just like, they're, to me, the only team in the same class with them right now are the Lynx. And the Liberty have just
Yeah.
looked great all season.
It's funny that you say there's not much to say about the Liberty because I almost feel the opposite. Like I was telling you earlier, I feel like, you never want to underestimate the defending champs, right? But it's like somehow I did. Like watching them come out this season, I'm like, wow, they're even better than I expected. I mean, they look like the champs, you know what I'm saying? And I think to me, what really stands out is the addition of Natasha Cloud. I mean, we got to see that in person in that season opener. Like she made a grand debut in her first game, regular season game for the Liberty. But to me, it's like I think when I saw that transaction take place, she was dealt to the Sun and then kind of landed with the Liberty. I was like, oh, okay. Like I just really kind of wrote it off. I didn't think. I just don't know that I thought Natasha Cloud was going to be this impactful for the Liberty. And so to see what she's doing, I mean, she's able to it's like takeover level performances where you're like, wow, this is like the Natasha Cloud game. And like, that's really cool. It feels like she's
She,
coming into her own,
she
you know
won
what I
her
mean?
first
And
player of the week.
exactly. And it's a lot of, you talk about this a lot in the WNBA about like, it's not always about the player. Sometimes it's just about the fit, right? But this is a sneakily good fit, Natasha Cloud with the Liberty. And then it's not just her. Like they have a really, really strong supporting cast for Brianna Stewart, John Paul Jones. Like you can go down their roster and be like, wow, like this is a deep team. So I don't know. It may be like there's not a lot to say about the Liberty, but through these first few weeks of the season, I've been like kind of stunned at how much I kind of maybe underestimated them.
Yeah, I didn't know how long it would take for like all their new pieces to mesh together, but I'm proud to say that before the season began, I did a roundtable and I talked about who might be one of the most impactful moves, like someone new to a team. And I did list Natasha Cloud, so she's making me look really good right now. But no, I didn't. I agree with you. Like I didn't know how quick it would be. And when I did my preseason preview with Christina Williams and Tarika Foster Brasme, Christina and both Tarika said like they think the Liberty might be better than last year, and I was like, really? Even with the loss of
I see
Benaja and
that.
KT, and I agree with them. Now I'm here. Their best franchise
Yeah.
start. They've matched it 7-0. So if they win again, they're gonna
Yeah.
break that record. And then they just I feel so bad for the poor Connecticut Sun, but they lost to them 48 points. That's the largest margin of victory in their franchise history, but also the second
Same.
largest in WNBA history. I mean, this is you're gonna start if they repeat, if they pull that off, which would be crazy, only because like the Aces were the first team to do it in like 20 odd years,
Yeah.
just like 2 seasons ago. If they do that, we're gonna have to start talking about them as one of the best teams in WNBA history because this is incredible stuff we're seeing from them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, genuinely, once you get to repeat territory and things like that, then like, yeah, you do got to start talking about the legacy of a team and things like that. But such a great point about them being better than last year. Like that, I think that's something we need to like maybe like we need to all be on notice. Like they're leading the league in points per game, and even that win over the Connecticut Sun, like that was a Commissioner's Cup game. So those extra points matter. You know what I mean when it comes to tiebreaker? Because at the end of the Commissioner's Cup, there could be a lot of teams with like similar records. That can make a huge difference, and they've won before. So, and we know like even that can impact the trajectory of the season. Now you've won some money, inserted some like new confidence and things like that. It's all like momentum. So it's gonna be interesting.
Very interesting. And then, of course, I already mentioned the Lynx, but the Minnesota Lynx are the other undefeated team in the league. So there's only two right now. They're both 7-0. And I feel like the Minnesota Lynx or the Liberty, either way, they're like, we're keeping pace with each other. We do not want this team getting a win. So, I mean, they're both going hard in their games. And I think what the Lynx are doing is equally as impressive. Like, the numbers may not look like it, but when you think about the fact that they just won a game the other day and they didn't have Nafisa Collier playing. And granted, the Mercury also didn't have Alyssa Thomas, but they won without Nafisa Collier. They won their first few games without Kayla McBride playing. The very first game, Alana Smith, Kayla McBride missed. I mean, they are doing this with key players down. And a lot of people made a lot of noise about them not adding that many new pieces. But I think the continuity is what helps to make them better. And they did bring back Jess Shepard, and she's been great for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think what stands out to me about the Lynx is like they have that never-ending motivation, right? Like losing in the finals is like all the motivation you need for a season. It's like we want to get back and we want to win it, and you see that in the way that Nafisa is playing. I mean, she's the league's leading scorer right now. What is she averaging? Like 26.3 points per game.
A
That's
lot.
insane. And I read an article recently. I'm not sure if it was Cheryl Reed that said this or Nafisa, but they were talking about how like the level of play an undefeated team, they still feel like they're not playing at the level that they expected themselves. And I think that stands out too, like the baseline and the expectation that you set for yourselves as a team. It matters so much. If you feel like you're not meeting the expectation and you're undefeated, that's a great place to be,
Yeah.
So I mean, so yeah, I mean the Lynx, they absolutely I'm not trying to like discount the Lynx by how much I'm praising the Liberty by any means, but they should not be counted out. They're undefeated for a reason.
Yeah, and I agree with them. They haven't, like I said, they haven't, like, the numbers don't jump out the way that they do for the Liberty right now, but I really think that's just because like they haven't had their whole squad. And now that it seems like they do, I expect that they're gonna like kind of, uh, show us that other level they can get to. And I just think it's funny how they toy with teams because they've been in a lot of close games all season. And then they just like, whether it's the second half or in the fourth quarter, they just say, okay, let me remind y'all who we are. We're the finals runner-ups. And they just close it out. They just execute at an unbelievable level. Really championship caliber stuff from the Minnesota Lynx.
Yeah.
One of the surprise teams to me, not to me, Callie, but I think a surprise to many are the Phoenix Mercury. And let me tell you something, people came for me in my preseason rankings that I had the Phoenix Mercury where I did. And at that time I had them fifth. And people were like, above the Storm? And, they're going to be like lower in the standings. Some people thought they would just be way worse. People were telling me Chicago would be ahead of them. And I gotta tell you, I mean, a lot of people who I respect were disagreeing with me. And I'm like, man, maybe I'm way off here. But I'm just like, Alyssa Thomas, Satu Sabli, Kalia Copper. And at that time, we didn't know Kalia Copper wasn't going to be out. And I'm like, y'all think this team is not going to be a very, very good team? I could not comprehend it. So again, thank you, Phoenix Mercury, for making me look very good because I believed in you from the start.
I think sometimes what it comes down to is like the unknowns, right? Like Alyssa Thomas, that was kind of a blockbuster addition. And then even getting Satu, like that was huge, So it's kind of like, how is this going to work and what is this going to look like? I feel like maybe that's why you got some pushback. Maybe people just like weren't sure. And I think too, with Nate Tippett's like basketball approach, he talks about how Like, he's like against the mid range, wants to take a lot of threes and things like that. And it's like, is that approach conducive to like the roster that you have? Like, I don't know if like, going into this season, I just think there were questions is how I felt. Then watching them in the preseason, like obviously they came to Las Vegas, and the Aces won that game. And preseason's not always a good, and I mean, we know this, it's not a good indicator of like what these teams are going to look like. But kind of watching, I was just unsure. Like you could see, okay, Satu's really good, like Ka is really good, but it didn't seem really cohesive at the time. Clearly, they are gelling now, which is like how the WNBA season is supposed to work anyway. But like, I think maybe that's just what it comes down to. And really, that's how this is all going to be. Like, we're early in the season. We're talking about a maximum of like 8 games. You know what I mean? Like, this is not the time where you're going to be looking your absolute best. But like, for sure, the Phoenix Mercury have kind of, I think, exceeded my expectations.
Yeah, I mean, I can't wait to see what they look like when Ka comes back. I don't know how long Alyssa Thomas is going to be out with this calf injury. So yeah, but I honestly think they're going to be one of the top teams. I think they have a very good chance to be one of the final 4 remaining at the end of the season. So if Alyssa Thomas could do it in the East with the Connecticut Sun, a large part of her MVP year when people were pushing for her, it was that she was doing less with more because many of her teammates got injured. And now she's going to have, or does have, Satu Sabli and Kalia Copper by her side. I'm never, ever doubting an Alyssa Thomas-led team. There's a reason they call her the engine. So I actually look forward to seeing what's going to happen with the Mercury. But I think another team that surprised people were the Atlanta Dream. And they are a team that I had more questions about than I did the Phoenix.
The
Mercury, yes. Because it was, how are the two bigs going to work together, and right, and Brittany Griner and Bree Jones, which were 2 huge additions to their team. And then I also felt not only was it about like how those 2 were going to fit together, but also I do feel like for them to really go to the next level, it requires Ryan Howard to take another step in her game, and I didn't know if we were going to see that, but she's looked pretty good to start the season. I've been actually super impressed with her defense, and Alicia Gray. I mean, Leash has been amazing. Both of them, to me, are playing at like a different level this year, and if they're playing like that, plus you have these 2 bigs, I think they're a sneaky dangerous team.
Yeah, I mean, okay. So with Ryan, it's like, yes, she does look great defensively, but she's also top 3 in the league in 3-pointers made per game. Like, so it's like both sides of the ball, she's looking really impressive. And then with Alicia Gray, I'm like, what major award watch are we on for Alicia? Like, is it most improved? Is it MVP? Like what category, what watch list should we put her on? Because I'm with you. I'm like, she looks really good. Like, and this team, I think they came out swinging, like with their, what was it? There was kind of like a buzzer beater, really like tight win over the Fever, I think it was, which was kind of the early, like, maybe put the league on notice moment. But yeah. So tell me, I don't know, what is the category that we're putting Alicia Gray in, watch list wise?
I don't know, because some people are very funny about most improved. Like, I don't know if people would consider a player already of Alicia Gray's caliber. Like, they don't usually like to consider players like that for most improved, So, but I mean, I think she's definitely a valid candidate. I think there's a lot of people, it's too hard to tell. I mean, I think if she's not getting an individual award, I think what we're going to definitely see this year is some all NBA teams, right? Like, all stars a given. But if she keeps this up, I think all WNBA teams are what we're going to see for her, and I think that would be huge. So more time to tell, but I can't say enough about Lee. She's been great. All right, Callie. Well, we get to a team that you cover, and that is the Las Vegas Aces, right? So let's wrap this conversation with them, because the Aces, they were Vegas contenders, below the Liberty. But I think some places had them higher than the Lynx. Than the Lynx, yeah.
Oh, really?
Or yeah, or sometimes tied. Like, right, I don't know, like my betting too good, but like it was like the Liberty, and then like it could vary. But the Aces were considered a contender right up there. and then they lost the game of the season, like we mentioned, and then they sort of
Yeah.
struggled in their first few games. So like after 4 games, they were 2-2, and they had this like really bad loss, and to Seattle. And I was just seeing things from the Aces that I'm not used to seeing, Callie.
Yeah.
The ball wasn't moving.
Yes.
I was seeing a lot of like one-on-one play from players that I'm not used to seeing. I was not seeing the game run through Asia Wilson, their best player. The defense
Yeah.
was an atrocity. I mean, I just did not recognize this team who were back-to-back champions, only 1 year removed from a championship. And so
Yeah.
I could tell in the post games they were not pleased. Becky Hammon was not pleased. So Callie, you were there, you were covering this team. What was going on with the Aces? They looked better over like in the last week. They did. I'm not quite ready to say like the Aces are back, but
Yeah.
a much better showing in the last 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start by saying what you're saying about the offense is absolutely true. Like the ball was sticking and like the points weren't coming probably as easily as you would expect them to for a team that has multiple Olympians, reigning MVP, all that. So that's definitely true. But I think for me, the point of emphasis is always going to be defense with the Aces because that's like the identity that Becky Hammon wants the team to have. And it was horrendous. The defense was really, really bad. And I think you saw it like exploited the most against the Seattle Storm last week. After that loss, I had sat down with Becky Hammon for like 20 minutes, one-on-one on practice, just talking about kind of like what was going wrong. And it was the same thing. Like she really emphasized the defense. For her, it's like, okay, maybe on offense, we're just like over complicating things a little bit. That can be simplified, right? Like we're still trying to gel. We have new additions and people are overthinking things on that side of the ball. But that's even more true defensively because, and this is something that I think a lot of people aren't aware of, but like they hired a new assistant over the offseason, Ty Ellis, who's really known for this hexagon defense, which is used in the NBA. The Indiana Pacers are going to be using it in the finals, the NBA finals, and USA Basketball has implemented principles of the hexagon defense. You can see the Aces working on that just if you go to a practice. They have tape on the floor. It's like, the outline of the kind of like defensive footing they should be using and things like that. But it's a complicated like scheme. Hexagon defense is not simple. Some of that one-on-one defense that you're seeing is a result of some of the mistakes that they were making, trying to execute that. So a lot of the things that you're supposed to be doing, like in hexagon defense, are the opposite of what a lot of players expect to do. Like a lot of basic defensive things, like where you put yourself in line with the ball and where you're trapping and things like that. It's all different in this scheme that they were trying to introduce. So I think that that was a huge issue. Like they were overthinking really badly. And then you're kind of seeing plays where you're like, I mean, that was just a complete defensive lapse. There was nobody there type thing. So like that was, I think, a big thing. And I remember Ty Ellis, after I talked to Becky, he like walked me through the whole thing and he was like, I promise you it's going to get better. This was right before they played the Sparks. He was like, I know it looks bad right now. The whole goal of the hexagon defense is for them to protect the paint, right? They're trying to like shepherd people into the areas of the court where they want to guard, and that's not the paint, right? But they were the worst in that area. They were bottom of the league and the points in the paint defense heading into that game against the Sparks. And what I think I saw against the Sparks is better, like improvement. You're kind of seeing them pick up some of the stuff that they're supposed to do. And obviously they're not always going to be like, there are different like defenses that they can use and things like that. However, they looked a lot better against the Sparks. And I think some of that is just adjustment. And then same thing, they went back to the Storm and started a lot better. And they just seemed more like, what do you call it? Like gathered on both ends of the ball. And so I think that some of that is just like, they're piecing things together. It's like a process and they're getting there. Like Becky Hammon keeps saying, like, we don't expect to look our best at this point in the season. Like we're still figuring it out. But I think once they do like lock in, even more defensively, they could be like a huge threat. But it's just right now it's just seeing how things are going to unfold.
Okay, well, I'm glad you said that because we have to wrap, but I just want to know, do you think the Aces can get it together so that we are actually talking about them in conversations with the Liberty and Lynx again?
I think absolutely yes. I mean, what it's going to come down to, minus the defensive stuff, is like you said, it's like utilizing your superstar to the best of their ability, making sure Chelsea Gray is like consistently doing Chelsea Gray things, right? Like Asia shouldn't be leading the team in assists, and we saw a glimpse of that against the Storm. Chelsea did lead the team in assists. But like, so yeah, once if everybody is looking the way they're supposed to be looking, and schemes are being run correctly on both sides of the ball, then absolutely, this is a team that you can put in that conversation. But it's got to be consistent, and they're not there yet.
Okay. Well, thank you so much, Callie, for that detailed breakdown on the Aces. I think that it's really helpful information. It explains a lot. And but by the way, shout out to Asia because her passing has improved a lot, and
Yeah,
it's crazy what we're seeing on display. All right, Callie, great conversation as always. Look forward to speaking with you more.
me too.